Okay, so this video is about Unit 3.4, which is recruitment and selection. The first thing we need to go through is 4 key words that I really want you to know. So, firstly, job description. The job description lists the tasks and responsibilities of a job. It helps the business to be clear about what it wants the employee to do. And it helps potential applicants decide if the job is right for them. The person specification states the knowledge, skills, qualifications, experience and personal qualities the worker will need to be able to do the job. That helps the business to be clear about what it wants from the employee, and it helps potential applicants decide if they are right for the job. Then we've got 2 different types of agency. Firstly, recruitment agencies, which are specialist agencies that carry out all of the tasks involved in recruitment and selection of workers on behalf of an organisation. So a business will employ a recruitment agency to do the recruitment and selection for them. And then employment agencies are agencies that have workers readily available for business hire, usually for a short period of time. So if they need a particular worker with a particular skill set for a short period of time, they could just hire them through an agency. They don't have to go through the entire recruitment and selection process. So first question is, why do businesses recruit new workers? There are 3 main reasons why businesses recruit new workers. Focus on this now. Firstly, for startup or for growth. So when you first start your business, you obviously need to recruit employees. And if your business is growing, you'll also need to recruit new employees. Then, obviously, to replace staff. So if people leave to work somewhere else, if people get a promotion, if people retire, you're going to need to recruit someone new to replace them. And lastly, this should say skill shortages. Skill shortages are where you have a particular skill set that you need to fill, like for example an ICT department. You're going to need to recruit somebody new. You can't just transfer your existing staff with different skills. Now I'm not going to get this up, am I? No. So, the recruitment process. Firstly, you need to analyse your HR needs. What I mean by that is you need to consider how many new staff you need, what type of new staff you need, what skills you need them to have, how much you've got to spend on new staff, all that sort of thing. Then you're going to need to advertise the job, and you need to consider where to advertise, which we'll cover in a little while. Then you need to shortlist the applications and CVs. So you need to read through all the applications that you receive and decide which ones you actually might want to consider. And then you go through the selection process, which is interviewing, testing, group activities, and we're going to go through some of those in a bit as well. So in terms of recruitment, there are 2 different types of recruitment, internal and external. And there are pros and cons of each. So internal recruitment is usually on like notice boards in the workplace. It might be through word of mouth around the workplace if you tell somebody and ask them to tell other people that they think suits the job. Could be an announcement in a staff meeting to say that we're going to recruit for this new position. Company magazines if they do anything internally. It could be on the firm website, on social media profiles used by workers or private social media groups used by workers. It could be internal emails. Basically, it's only advertising within the company. It's not advertising to anybody outside of the company. So the advantages of that are that it's generally cheaper to advertise because you've not got to pay to put it anywhere. You're only putting it in your own places. It's quicker. The person appointed knows the organisation already, so they understand the aims of the organisation, they understand the culture, what's acceptable, what isn't acceptable, who to speak to, who not to speak to, all that sort of thing. That may also mean that induction training might not be needed, which obviously saves a bit of money and time. The organisation already knows the applicant well, so that means that they can be confident that they're appointing the right person. And it's good for the morale of the workforce to give opportunities for promotion. So that can be motivational and encourage them to work harder. However, the disadvantages are that existing staff may not add new ideas. There may not be many people who are willing and able to apply, which leaves you with a limited choice. The opportunity for promotion can also lead to jealousy and conflict in the workplace, which isn't good. And backfill will need further recruitment and selection. So if you accept a job higher up, your position is still going to need to be filled. So that might involve external recruitment, which is going to have a cost. External recruitment is good for when you start up. Obviously, you haven't got an internal pool of people to recruit from, so you're going to need to go externally. It's good for when you've got skills shortages and skills gaps that need filling with skills that you don't currently employ. It's good for when you want new ideas. It's good for in situations where you think promotion might lead to conflict. So particularly in tight-knit employee groups, it may be conflicting to offer promotions. And it's good for when you need more workers because you haven't got that existing pool, you need to recruit outside of it. However, it takes longer, it costs more, and managers don't know the external candidates, which leads to a risk of employing somebody unsuitable. So now we need to consider the actual recruitment and selection process. So there's a list of things that you might want to include in your advertisement. Firstly, duties or tasks, the things that are actually going to be done in that job. Secondly, qualifications needed, so that you don't get anybody apply that isn't qualified to do the job. It's pointless, if you're advertising for a zookeeper, it's pointless somebody who's just left school at 16 applying because they need to have specialist knowledge of the animals. So you don't want to waste anybody's time or your own time by not telling them what qualifications they need. Similarly, if it's not a job that requires qualifications, you might need to specify what experience they need instead. You might want to put out the salary to attract people. You might want to include a short description of the work, which is kind of similar to duties and tasks. The hours of work, because you don't want to waste your time. If you're looking for somebody to work 9 to 5, you don't want to waste your time by having a bunch of students apply who aren't going to be able to make it. The place of work, to make sure that people can actually get there. Training opportunities, as in the type of training that you can offer people in the future. That's good for people who want to better themselves, to have some sort of career prospects. Future prospects, any sort of future responsibilities people might be given, any sort of future promotional opportunities, all that sort of thing, to try and encourage long-term employees. Contact details, in case people have any additional questions or just want to talk through the job, and details of how to apply. Very, very important. When you're deciding to advertise, you need to make a few decisions about how you're going to get this information out there. So you need to decide whether you're going to go internal or external. We've just spoken through the advantages and disadvantages of those. So you need to weigh those up and decide what's best for the job you're advertising for. Then, what type of worker is required? And that can help you to compile this list of information: experience, description of work, qualifications, all that sort of thing. How many workers are needed? And that will help you to process the applications once you've got them in, because if you're going to get 300 applications for only one position, you need to know that you're going to have to be really, really harsh when cutting out those applications, when slimming them down. Where is the work? Particularly important if you've got multiple branches or if you've got different functions in different locations. How much to spend? Obviously, that's going to influence your decision of internal and external as well, and where to put it, whether you put it on social media or whether you put it in a national newspaper. And lastly, where to advertise. And there's a huge list. You could go websites, you could go social media, local newspapers, national newspapers, you could go specialist magazines, You could put it into job centres, you could just rely on word of mouth. There's loads and loads of places that you need to consider, and that is going to link in really heavily with how much you have to spend. It's going to make a big impact on that. So once you've got all of your applications in, you then need to select or shortlist who you actually want. And there's a few different ways of doing that. Firstly, an application letter. So you're going to ask your applicants to write a letter about why they believe they are suitable for the job. So that's good to see their viewpoint on that, and it's good to see their written communication skills. So if your job has any sort of writing involved with it or relies on somebody having good communication skills, you can assess that through that letter. You could use an application form, which is going to give you the opportunity to ask specific questions and get answers to really, really specific questions to suit your business. You could ask them for a CV, which is going to be quite similar information to an application letter, but they're going to have to organise it in a really clear way. So it shows the ability of the applicant to organise their information. And it gives the opportunity for a business to see essential details at a glance. A CV should just be a list of information, whereas an application letter will be like an essay. So it's obviously a lot easier for a business to assess a CV than it is to sit and read through lots and lots of letters. Interviews, they could be one-on-one, they could be group interviews. It gives the opportunity for the employer to see how well a candidate can present themselves and how well they can communicate. And if you do choose to use group interviews, it's good to see how well people can work and engage with other people in a group. Tests and presentations. The tests give specific information and test specific abilities. So you could ask them for a short maths and English test to make sure that they've got basic maths and English skills. Presentations show communication skills and give the candidate the opportunity to bring across new ideas. You're going to have to ask people to prepare for presentations in advance and give them some sort of topic to present on. Group activities. It could be like team building type activities, it could be a group test or something like that. It shows their interpersonal skills and their group working abilities, so they're particularly handy if in the position they're going to be required to work as part of a group. And lastly, references. References are where previous employers or previous workers or people who know the candidate can give some sort of information about what they think that person is like. And it should be some sort of honest assessment from somebody else. However, sometimes companies give good references if they want to get rid of a worker, to try and tempt another employer to take that worker on. So there's quite a lot of information there. This is quite a long one, but hopefully that's a good summary to help you get it quite concise.